Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. How do I sound? Do I sound relaxed? Do I sound like I've spent the last 3 days in Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire? Oh my goodness. You may know that I am in the midst of a 12-day cruise to the Panama Canal right now, and it has been so dreamy, so fabulous, such a phenomenal yes that I said to myself. I am on an Abraham Hicks cruise. I am meeting the most incredible, high vibe, fabulous people. I'm in these workshops that is just expanding my capacity to receive. That is what is happening here. It is so beautiful. I cannot recommend more highly saying yes to yourself, having that include travel, incorporating these pattern interrupts, did these space to dream workshops. It's all just so good. So please tell me, how are you saying yes to yourself? Whether you are getting stamps in your passport like I am, or if you are just ordering your coffee a different way today, I really want to know. I'm so eager to hear how you are incorporating these lessons that these amazing women that I have the joy and honor of interviewing are sharing with us, how your own expansion and your own capacity to allow goodness into your life is catapulting you to the next beautiful thing, to the next beautiful yes. I am on this journey with you, and I am eager to hear how you are doing. We have such a delightful treat today. We have the wonderful Johanna Danaher. She is a mindset, life, and leadership coach and the founder of Anchor to Aspire. She helps pre-retirees and midlife professionals navigate the identity shift that comes with leaving a long-held career, guiding them from fear and uncertainty to clarity, purpose, and confidence. Drawing on decades of corporate leadership experience and tools like the Energy Leadership Index, Johanna supports executives and seasoned professionals in designing a next chapter rooted in meaning and intention. I am so eager to share this beautiful conversation with Johanna Danaher. Johanna, I've already decided this is going to be one of my favorite conversations. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so looking forward to this conversation as well.
It's such a gift. I love this podcast so much. I meet the most amazing women, and I didn't even have to leave my house. But we just learned even if I did leave my house, I wouldn't have to drive very far and I'd be at yours, which is so fun.
It is so fun. I mean, those people that we meet, whether they're through screens or right around the corner, right? It's the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to connect and have conversations that matter.
I agree. And it's so interesting when at the beginning of the pandemic, just a few months before that, I signed up for my very first online business course and met all these fabulous entrepreneurs, even though I had been an entrepreneur my whole life. I wasn't around very many of them. So I I think I just thought I was doing it wrong because everybody else had real jobs. And it's fascinating because now they're all quitting their real jobs and becoming entrepreneurs. And I think it's so great. But it was fascinating to be in deep, transformative relationship with these people that I had never seen what color pants they were wearing because
Hmm.
it was always on a screen. And then found that, we would talk about each other. Oh, my friend Cindy, well, I haven't actually met her. So does that make her my friend? Like, oh my gosh, let's redefine friendship, shall we? Because it
Absolutely.
can't just
Absolutely.
be associated with meeting someone in person.
It can't. And sometimes we are a little bit more vulnerable too when we're actually talking across a screen, right? It creates a space where, we don't have to put on a performance. We can just be real and we can have, a deeper conversation because we're not worried about all the other stuff that comes with being with someone in person.
Right. And I feel like that vulnerability and presence is really felt by whoever is listening.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're getting at the crux of the conversation and the true meaning behind, what the words are saying. It doesn't feel fake or superficial, right? It's not just that sort of coffee cooler talk. It's real and it's poignant and it's deep.
Yes. And I love that we have the space to do that, to unpack these beautiful truths and things that we know we're going to talk about and things we just bump up against and we didn't know. And then, all right, we're I guess we're going there. Here we go. Which is what I find so often in these interviews because I'm trying to consistently learn.
Mm.
I'm I have the hungry head of the dragon. I cannot get enough. I want all the information and I'm connected with these amazing women and they are doing work that is also in service to me. So I'm always like going, oh, okay, well, asking for a friend, how would you do this? So it really has been such a delightful, expansive, joyous ride that I had no idea. And now we're 4 years in, and it's a gift.
And it's amazing that you have that perspective, right? That you are 4 years in on a journey that you didn't know where the sort of outcome was going to be. You took that first small step into something that might have been outside your comfort zone. And look at the amazingness that it's created for you and all of your listeners.
It's unbelievable. And I think if I look back, and I'm eager to hear if this is the same for you, everything has been like that. It just felt like the next right yes. And I am a person who likes to act on those next right yeses. And, within the parameters or the guidelines, the cage that my former life was, I didn't realize it was a cage. I just thought these are the parameters. And then once I realized, as a part of that class that I signed up for in 2020, that I had agency, that I could create the life that I wanted, and I didn't have to wait for someone to give me permission. I could give myself permission. And then it's like, oh my gosh, okay. Well, everything changed. So then my yeses became more aligned and more frequent, and I became only available for what delights me. And here we are.
Yeah, you were fueling that sense of purpose, right? That sense of meaning. And I think that's so interesting. And I love the way you said that. It was like that aligned yes, right? That you were saying. And when I work with clients, a lot of times people are so drained because they've been saying yes to everything, right?
Mhm.
They have to be the one who shows up for all of everything, whether that is at work, whether that is at home, whether that is in community. And we stop saying no. There's this fear of saying no, right? The fear that if I say no, I'm letting someone down. The fear that if I say no, then I'm not valuable, that people won't like me, that, and that. There's a story that oftentimes we tell ourselves we have to say yes instead of saying, I am choosing to say yes to the thing that matters most to me. And I always remind my clients that every unaligned yes is a no to something that matters more. So think
Yeah,
about what you say yes to.
right. And I love that because sometimes I think we can think that our yes automatically means a no to something. And I don't know if that's actually true because I think sometimes our yes unlocks the other people's yes as well. But the misaligned yes, which should be a no, really does keep us from the person we're becoming.
Yeah, it really does when we say the yes to the things that we have to out of obligation versus saying yes to the things because they create joy for us. There's actually no space for the things that bring us joy because we've said yes to all of these other things because we felt we should have or we have to. And it makes it really hard to say that yes to the thing that really lights you up, to feel
Right,
comfortable in saying, I am going to do that because it matters to me.
right.
That's scary sometimes for people who my whole history has always been like, yes, I'm going to say yes to the next opportunity because like you, I'm a learner. I want all of those experiences because it means I'm learning something. I can't do it all. I really
Mhm.
can't. So I have to choose what's most important. Or maybe it's not an ultimate no, right? Maybe it's a yes, however, not right now. Or
Yeah.
yes, in 2 weeks. Or I'd be really interested in that, but it's not something I can commit to at this moment. So yeses can be down the road, or they can be no, it's actually not aligned to where I want to go.
What is your process then for kind of putting all your yeses in a bucket? So you have a week of requests that come in. Some of them, like you said, were like, "Oh, that's easy. That's a no." But now I've have 17 yeses that are really lighting me up. What has been your process to kind of shake down the hierarchy of yeses?
And it's a great question. This has actually changed.
I hope so.
Yeah,
It
it's
should
changed.
always be changing. That's alignment.
Always. Always. And I love that because it's never constant. And that's the thing we have to continuously sort of check in on ourselves, right? If I was to answer that question, say this time last year,
Uh-huh.
when I was working full time, it would be very different than right now. Right now, my yeses fundamentally are, does this bring me joy?
Mm,
Does this give me a learning opportunity? And does this forward my business? So those are the three things that are the primary. Ultimately, there's the family connection. Does this support my family, right? Does this align with where we are sort of going?
sure.
So that is always an underpinning. But the three that are primary right now are those three. A year ago, it would have been like, is this something I have to do?
Mhm.
Uh, does this align with some sort of, goal that I'm trying to hit for the organization that may not be aligned with, who I am? And, is it going to keep me safe?
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. That last one, yeah, that stopped me in my tracks. Isn't that interesting?
And there's the myth of that safety net, right?
Mm,
We say sometimes, at least I found that I would say yes to the new project that came along because it felt like I had to say yes in order to be safe, to ensure that I still was employed, that I was
mhm,
delivering the value that the organization, needed. And the organization that I was with them for 25 years and they provided me amazing opportunities to grow. It was a phenomenal experience working there. But I found that there were times where I was saying yes to things that really were not driving my my joy. And they were not aligned. And in some cases I said yes, and they actually drove my whole team out of misalignment, right? Because I was
Right.
doing something that wasn't aligned to where the goals were. So
Right.
it's also like I was saying yes. Is this going to keep me safe as opposed to pushing me to where I really need to be?
Which is really fascinating because even the concept of safety, it's not safe to do what you were doing, but we call it safe. I mean, it's just like how people call it the comfort zone. It's like the most uncomfortable place to be, but it's familiar, even if it's not comfortable.
And the magic only happens when we get out of the comfort zone, when we get out of that safety space, that perceived safety, right? And we
Right.
pursue something that truly lights us up.
Wow. Well, it sounds like this has been your practice for quite a few months, but how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
So for me, it's all about prioritizing family time and self care because those are the things that I have not put priority behind. I'm a practitioner of energy management and focusing in on knowing that we have to fuel ourselves in order to be there for everyone else, in order to be there for our clients, for our customers, for our business. And I don't do it myself.
I bet you're not alone.
I'm sure I'm not, but I was actively self-sabotaging myself. And
Ooh,
so,
can you say more about that, please?
yes,
Because what's most personal is most universal. So I appreciate this answer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of us self-sabotage. I was telling myself stories, and those stories were actually causing me to not do the things. Like, I can't walk up a flight of stairs without catching my breath, so I can't go to the gym. So I would like self-sabotage and not go to the gym because I was telling myself I don't belong. Right.
Mm.
And every time I would go to the gym, I felt awesome because everybody was so welcoming. But then the next morning I would get up and I'd be like, I didn't wash the shirt that I always wear, so I'm not going to go. Whatever it was, there was always an excuse to not put myself first and to not invest in my health and well-being. It's
Mm.
also, I know I shouldn't be sitting all day. I know I need to have physical activity in my life. I've bought myself a standing desk and I don't actually stand at my desk, right? So I'm self-sabotaging myself all the
I did
time.
that, and then I just sold it on Facebook Marketplace with my walking pad and thought, how about this? How about schedule time at your desk and then the next day schedule time that's not at your desk so you're actually moving your body. Then it'll be okay. If you I
I
mean
love
to
that.
me, not to you, but so people were asking me on the Facebook Marketplace listing, like, oh, will you take this much instead? It's like, I literally took it out of the box and took the box to the recycling because I'm responsible that way and raised it one time while my daughter tried out the water. That's it. So no, I'm not going to lower the price. It's actually never been used.
Never been used. And yes, exactly. That's what I was doing. I'm sitting here going, yeah, I got this thing and I've not used it. So, and I know I'm giving every excuse on the planet, but all that does is self-sabotage. And all that
Mhm.
does is prevent me from really being the best me for me. And if I'm the best me for me, then I can be the best me for everyone else that I come into
Yes.
contact with. But I can't do that without investing in myself. And it was actually like 3 weeks ago, I heard somebody say, there's that old adage, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Mhm.
So great adage, love it. And everybody's like, if it's half full, blah, blah, blah. And this person said, you know what? You can't pour from anything other than the overflow. So fill your cup
Yep.
all the way up and then pour from the overflow. And if you're not overflowing, don't pour from your cup.
That's what we say all the time on this podcast. We pour from our saucer,
Oh, I love it.
right? Because then when you're depleted and your saucer is empty, you fill yourself up. It doesn't take very long because you're already at the top of the cup.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm filling. So if I'm filling, then I can fill others. And it's like, no, I have to fill,
Right.
overflow, and then pour from my
Yes.
saucer.
If there's something that I feel like I have to do, but I don't want to do it, then I'm going to grab my journal. Like, okay, let's say more about this. Are you in avoidance? Are you, do you think something bad's going to happen if you actually open QuickBooks? Or, like what is happening? Is this narrative in service? Or is there something, or do you just not want to do it? And then, okay, I want to move my body. I just don't want to do it that way. What do I want to do? I want to go for a walk. Great. But I don't like that there's bugs. Okay. So we won't walk in the woods? Well, I don't want to walk on the street because there's no sidewalk. Okay. So where are there no bugs, or where is there wind? Oh, the beach. Oh, I like to walk on the beach. Oh, I love it when my feet are barefoot. It's like getting a foot rub and moving my body at the same time. Oh, look, I actually do want to move my body. I just want to do it somewhere else. Is that allowed? Yes, it is. All right, let's go move our body. So there's something that can happen too when we allow ourselves to play the tape out instead of like, darn it, I'm going to die of heart disease because I never move my body.
Well, exactly. And I love that you talk about that, because it's actually the shift from being the inner critic to being the inner coach, right? And you're asking yourself those deeper questions. You're not criticizing yourself. Oftentimes, we talk to ourselves like we would never talk to anybody we love or a friend, right?
Sure.
We critique ourselves and we beat ourselves up for not moving, for not using the standing desk, instead of really trying to understand what the root cause is, right? So for me, I know, okay, I have autoimmune disorder, and standing sometimes can be physically tiring and physically
Sure.
draining. But moving, if I'm on a walk, but not a run for me, it's definitely a walk, that energizes me. But I don't like to get myself out of the house. So I'm like, okay, how do I figure it out? So what I figured out for me is just like you. It is going down to be by the water. It is walking, whether it's on the beach or on a boardwalk. But I tie it to also having a coffee or a tea. So I
Mhm.
love an iced tea, and I love to get my iced tea. Sometimes I make it at home. Sometimes I treat myself to one from a store. But I pick that up and I take that with me, because then that's sort of my little moment of reset. But it took me a while. And then the other thing for me is I love to garden. And I have a huge vegetable garden. And for years and years and years, I did not pay any attention to my garden except for planting everything. And
Okay.
then in the fall, kind of harvesting some stuff.
Right.
But I let it all go in the middle of the summer because I was too busy with work. And I'm like, this year was the first year I finally gave myself the gift to say, no, this brings you immense joy. You're avoiding going out there because it's too hot. I'm like, well, just
Right.
go out in the morning, have your coffee, have your tea in the vegetable garden in the morning and enjoy it. And I did. And it was amazing. And I went in and I did so much harvesting. And I to the point that I have like an entire dining room table covered in canned goods that
Oh my
I have to
gosh,
find
that's
a
so
place to
fun.
store.
Oh, I love this so much, Johanna, because I feel like what you've done is you've created ritual and ceremony around this thing that you want, but don't want at the same time. So it is okay. We know we need to do some things. I know that as an entrepreneur, I have to attend to my QuickBooks. And there are things I love about it because it gives me all the information of how great my business is and how fun it is. But if I have more information than this tool that's supposed to be super smart and I can't figure out how, then I get frustrated with it. So am I going to just not be avoidant of my QuickBooks? No, I'm going to create ceremony. So I'm making these dates with myself and it's on the calendar because the thing that I find frustrating about it is if I don't look at it until November or worse yet, February, and then I have all of these months that need to clean it up. That's what makes it frustrating. And then I'm mad at myself and then the critic, all the things. But if I put something on the calendar, I never miss something on my calendar. So if I put my own things on the calendar, and I know that from, well, from 9 to 10, I almost said from 2 to 3, 2 to 3, nothing's happening. That's when I get hair appointments and have phone calls because I cannot start a new project in the afternoon. So from 9 to 10 on Tuesdays, I attend to QuickBooks. And this is new, obviously, which is why I didn't have the actual time slot. But that making ceremony and creating ritual around it helps me enjoy the thing. And I'm only
Mhm.
available for what delights me. I still have to do some things that actual practice I might not be delighted by, but I am delighted that I own my own business. I am delighted that it is profitable. I am delighted that when somebody asks me a question, I know where to find the answer and I can do that with confidence. I'm delighted that I give my tax accountant some ideas that he didn't think of yet because I'm really smart that way. So it's a beautiful way to attend to the things that might not be our favorite yes, but it's still a way that we're saying yes to ourselves.
And I love that there's two things that I'll sort of double down on there,
Please.
because I heard a little bit about celebration, right? So I think it's also not only just the ritual that we're
Yeah.
creating for ourselves, but it's celebrating the wins and recognizing that, every single time we do this ritual, right, this ceremony, and we perform the task that we said yes to, we celebrate. And
Yes.
when we celebrate, that creates more joy and then brings us to this next stage of wanting to do it again, right? So it creates momentum. So I absolutely love that. And then I also love what you said about the calendar. And so a practice that I've had for years was putting on my calendar, both in the corporate environment and now as a solopreneur, I put focus time, which is my creative time, and that is
Mhm.
color coded green
Yeah.
because that is like all about ideation and growth and new ideas and new things sprouting.
And it's how
And
you're going to make your money.
exactly, right? So that's
Yep.
all I need to do that. And those are long blocks. So I give myself like
Yeah.
3 hour windows for that so I can get into flow. But I also block in red, color coded red, every single day two 30-minute stops. So red in the
Mhm.
US, stop sign is red. So
Sure.
it means stop. So that is you need to take a break. Whether I'm going to do something to go outside and get a walk, whether I'm
Right.
going to just step away, I'm taking a break. So I build those in intentionally. And for me, the color matters because I see it as
Right.
red and I'm like, I have to stop because otherwise I would stay.
Right. And I love that. I think I will totally implement that. And what I'll put in my stop sign are suggestions of what I'm going to do with that rest, like fold the laundry or do something that I might be tempted to feel like I should do before I have my productive time. So I think that's really great because if I'm calling myself out before I give myself opportunity to self-sabotage, that might be helpful for me.
Yeah, I find that, that's the time that I'll probably get the dishes done or flip the laundry or
Right?
or or maybe, do something like I balance the checkbook, whatever it may be. I'm going to do something or I'm going to just do nothing and embrace doing
Ooh.
nothing. And doing nothing, it's this Dutch concept of Nixon or something like that. I think I
Mhm.
might have pronounced it wrong, but it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
For somebody who's been like me, it's normal to be busy, right? We
Right.
glorify being busy. The idea of doing nothing
Right.
is so
Purpose.
foreign.
Do you know your human design?
I don't. Well, something I've wanted to dig into, so I don't know that
I
yet.
wonder if you're a generator because I'm a generator and that like we go.
Yep.
We make it happen. I mean, a lot of people make it happen. There are manifestors and manifesting generators who have the ideas and then do it, but the generator can hold that energy and we rest when we're sleeping. And
Yeah.
then we start the day like, okay, here we go. For solopreneurs, I also live on a small farm. I just bought the neighboring 30 acres. I lead culinary trips to France. Like there's no like sitting around in the middle of the day, except when I am in France. I
Mhm.
feel like that is my pattern interrupt, which is the same thing that I'm providing for my clients, but it gets me out of my normal routine. I don't have any chores there. I'm
And
taking
that's
care of my
amazing.
clients, right? And helping them, which I'm at work, but I'm not doing things with my, like right now, I can, thankfully, it's this beautiful season of winter, doesn't have a lot of things to do outside, but spring is coming and then summer, as you mentioned too, in your garden. Like there are a lot of things. So, all to say, this focused, strategic, restorative replenishment that you are calendaring, it's so important.
It is so important. I actually just talked about the power of pause. And so it's something that
Mm.
I do a lot. And I talked about the three sort of types of pause. And the micro pause, right? The ones that we build in strategically in our day that allow us to, get to that place of renewal, to refuel ourselves to perform. Then there's sort of the seasonal pauses, right? Which is what you're talking about when you go to France. And these are the longer vacations or the long weekends where we're away and we're in that space where we don't have to perform, we don't have to do. And then there's the life resets, right? Where there's a moment where everything's changing, whether it's a role elimination, empty nesting, menopause, retirement, whatever it might be. Each of those ask us something slightly different. And it's important for us to take those pauses, to create those spaces for pause for ourselves, because the pause is where our body, refuels itself. It doesn't happen after we burn out. It happens in the pause.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I would really love to hear more about that, especially with that last, the life pause, the transition pause, because I think so many of my listeners are in that stage where, okay, things are changing. We're just at that age. Of course, our bodies are changing, but the roles our roles are changing, the circumstances are changing, people are moving out, people are moving in, like what is happening, all of these things. And it can be a big deal. It can bring some very significant changes, and significant changes also create new significant changes.
They
So
do.
yeah, so how are you experiencing that with your clients?
So I'll tell a little bit about, my own personal story and then talk a little bit about what I do with clients. So last year, my daughter started at University of New Hampshire. So she was a freshman in college. So it's an empty nesting situation, right? We've been we were always very close. She was a big singer, so we spent a lot of time traveling around the world, listening to her sing, but also locally. So there was a lot of investment that, we had, and a lot of the things that we did for fun were all things that were associated with her music. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden it was like, well, that's gone. And I felt a loss, a deep loss that I had been on the board of this particular choral group that she was a part of. I was very involved as a volunteer for this rock band. And all of a sudden, all of that was gone, or at least I told myself all of that was gone. And it really wasn't. I was still
mhm.
invested in the chorus. I'm still volunteering still to this day. But I had to relearn how did I operate even as a parent, right? Now I'm not sort of making the decisions, I'm supporting the decisions. I'm walking beside her versus guiding her. I have to let her fail in order for her to learn. And it was just a really big transition moment for me. And
Sure.
I had to ask her, what did she need from me now? Right.
Mm.
And I had to listen.
Did she have an answer?
She did at first, and then she said, I don't know. And then it changed. And that's okay. Right.
Right.
I had to be open to that. So that was part of what I had to learn, was that I had to ask her each time if she was calling, with a problem, did I immediately go to problem solving mode like anybody would? Because that's what we've been doing for 18
Yes.
years. So I have to say, what do you need me to be for you today? Do you need me to listen? Do you need me to help you problem solve? Do you need me to advocate? What is it that you need from me right now? And then I had to listen to that. And I had to ask questions versus giving advice. So that was also a shift. So that was one. And then shortly after my daughter started at college, my role was eliminated. After 25 years of being in a corporate environment, I was in corporate HR doing work I absolutely loved. But I had felt that it was not really fully aligning with where I wanted to go. I had already started to plan for my early retirement, and this accelerated that. It was very much a significant upheaval. I felt sort of adrift. Who was I without the title, without the place I called home for literally half my life? So I had to reinvent myself, and that was really, really scary. And I'm reinventing myself as an entrepreneur. I'm just, starting out. I've been coaching for hundreds of years within the corporate environment, shall we say, but I hadn't done it on my own. So I was starting a coaching program and really building that capacity while I was in the organization. And then when I left the organization, I was like, this is what I'm going to do, because this is what brings me joy. This is what I know has an impact on my clients, because I had been doing it. Now I get to do it for me as opposed to doing it for a corporate environment. But that was totally terrifying, stepping out of a place I had been in for 25 years now, going on my own and figuring out I don't have I don't have a tech support. I I don't have someone to call when Zoom doesn't work. I have to figure out all of this other stuff. I don't have a corporate affairs organization helping me draft my content. It's all me. And it was terrifying, but it was exciting. And the thing that I missed the most was the network of people that I had around me. It was a built-in network, and I worked at a global organization, so I had people in every country that I could contact. I had this perspective that I didn't have on my own. So I had to find that, and I had to build that myself. And, conversations like this one with you, Wendy, are exactly how you build that network, and you bring that to you as opposed to having it given to you, right? And you build it intentionally. So that's what I experienced, and my clients experience a lot of the same things, asking themselves those questions. Who am I now? What matters to me now? And so often we ask that question of ourselves early on in our career. What are the values that are guiding me? And we never looked at them again. So it's time to look at them again. Are we actually doing work that's aligned with who we want to be?
Right. And it's okay. In fact, it's appropriate for there to be shifts in that. We were it's, like we start asking kids what they want to be when they grow up, when they're in kindergarten. It's like, how in the world do they know? They don't know. So then you just, like, you're reaching for the highest branch you can see. So you're like, oh, I guess I'm a fireman. Okay, great. And then you learn more, you're just developing, but you're creating these identities that are supposed to carry you into adulthood. And then there are unmet expectations in that because you just like didn't have enough information. And the same thing is happening to whomever you've married. And then you're watching it happen to your children. So you're kind of navigating that and giving them advice from what you've learned, but not from maybe where they could start in a totally different place. So, I mean, there's just so much fluidity to life. And I grew up thinking that there wasn't fluidity, that it was all just running through one pipe. And that's just how it went. And it turns out that that's actually not true.
Not at all. And you can actually take that image of like a subway system, right? Where all of the lines are intertwisting. even at work in the role that I was in, it was about career growth, right? And we used to hear all the time that I want to move up the ladder. And I was like, well, the ladder doesn't really exist, right? Let's just be real. It
Right.
doesn't exist. And if it does, it probably has what, 4 rungs on it. Let's be real. It's a
Yeah.
lattice, or as we called it, it's a zigzag. You're going to go forward and you're going to take steps back. You're going to go sideways, and you should, because now you have new information. You've had new experiences that give you insights that you never had before. All of a sudden, I went from studying marine biology to being in HR, having
Right.
worked in a bookshop in the meantime, and now I'm a coach, right? Who knew? All
Right.
of those experiences, they open up our eyes to possibility. So I always say you have to have sort of like this uber idea of success for you, but that's really more of a feeling than a title or an outcome, right? It's a feeling.
Exactly. Exactly. Because then you can practice that feeling. Like you've said joy so many times. Great. Like there can be joy from a sunrise and joy from a popsicle and joy from a Christmas present and joy from a bunny. And like there are so many opportunities for joy, which is so great when we're focused on the emotion that we desire rather than it has to look like this 6 feet tall, dark hair, green eyes, owns a chateau, whatever.
Exactly. When we have that picture of perfection, right, that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
it it stops us from experiencing the everyday joy. And I talk about like the idea like joy, it's a choice. We choose happiness, we choose joy, and we have the opportunity to choose that, right? And no matter what's happening to us. I also
Mhm.
talk about the fact that, and my whole business is built on this idea of paradox, right?
Yeah.
The company's name is called Anchor to Aspire, and it's all about how you need to be anchored in yourself to aspire to greatness, but it's built on the metaphor of the ocean, right? The ocean is both chaotic and calm. It is the
Yes.
giver of all life, and it can destroy lives. It is beauty and absolute horror at times,
Right.
right? It is calm. The tides come in, but every time the tide comes in, and it always will come in, it changes the shoreline so that you can hold two things that seem equally opposed, joy
Hmm.
and grief, in the same moment, right? We can hold those things together. And it's hard for people to see that sometimes, that joy and happiness are not these toxic positivity senses. It's
Right.
about looking from a grounded space for
Right.
what
Yes.
can I see in this experience that will bring me joy, or that is a lesson or a learning that I can take forward from here,
Right.
right? It's possible to do both.
Right. Well, and it's how we shift the circumstances. Like if you're looking at something that you don't like and you just are pointing out what you don't like, it's just going to recreate more of that. But if you're looking at something you don't like and you're hopeful that it's going to change, or you're appreciative for the wake up call because now you can make another decision, or it's not denying that something bad is happening. It's Marianne Williamson talks about this in her reviews of A Course in Miracles, and she says that it's this positive denial because you're not saying the world's not going to hell in a handbasket. You're just denying that that has power over you. So I can acknowledge that something's not the way I want it, and I can disengage and do something and focus on something that brings me joy that I can interact with. And that, because not in service to anybody if I'm all spun on how terrible something is.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, but it's
doesn't,
so it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve your clients, it doesn't serve anyone
and
around
it doesn't
around us.
change the situation.
But it's so normal to be exactly there,
Yep.
right? That's what we've normalized, and that's what we valued so often, is to find the problem, to focus
Mhm.
on the problem, as opposed to saying, well, what's the lesson? What's the learning? What can I take from this? What
Right.
decision will this enable me to make differently going
Right.
forward? right? What's the joy moment here? And it
Yes.
sounds weird to say, what's the joy moment in a moment of chaos? But there is, if we
Right.
choose to look for it.
And we will find what we're looking for.
Yep, we always do.
Mm-hmm. You get what you expect and you get what you focus on, whether you want it or not.
Yeah, yeah. What we manifest that for ourselves when we choose to focus in those spaces. And it's
Right.
interesting when we're engaged in and when something triggers us, right?
Right.
Oftentimes we then fall into sort of survival zone and we're reacting, right? We're not operating from choice. We're
Yeah.
reacting to something like we have to do something, or I should do this, or I'm not going to engage at all, because we're sort of in that space, right? Of either a victim or anger or rationalization. When we actually shift to look at this conscious choice that we're making to say, well, what's the learning? What am I taking away from this? Where can I find that spark of whatever in this moment? Then we automatically get ourselves to a place of choice, right? So now we're consciously choosing how we're responding versus subconsciously reacting
Right.
from a place that is not even in our focal awareness, right? It's that whole idea of moving from I have to I choose to and I want to. And that is a beautiful place to be.
It's empowering.
But it's hard to get there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I could talk to you all day long. This is so fun.
So fun.
Thank you for your time. I've loved this conversation. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, all the good things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me, and the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is anchor2aspire.com. On there, you'll find information on upcoming sessions that I host. I host a Mini Waves webinar series and a Making Waves to Move to Joy session. So you can find all of those on my website, anchor2aspire.com. And also for those of you on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me there. It's under Johanna Danaher on LinkedIn.
So perfect. We will link everything down in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate you and everything that you've been creating with this amazing podcast and the community that you formed. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. It is a joy. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.